Welcome to Not Entirely Unlike Tea with Christine Collins. Hey there, it's Christine Collins. And one question that I see come up really often for entrepreneurs is whether or not their neurodivergence has an interplay effect with being an entrepreneur. And it turns out that there are many connections and overlaps between being neurodivergent and leaning into entrepreneurship. So what are a few of those things? One aspect that a lot of neurodivergent people will be very familiar with is a strong bend of creativity and creative thinking. Neurodivergent people may tend to really excel at thinking about things in new and innovative ways, which is critical for problem solving as well as constructing new ideas, marketing strategies, new ways of presenting services, products, and all in all, just having a creative, unique approach that has a fresh feel and looks and feels different to other things that may be out there. Another ability that is really special for neurodivergent people is the capacity to have what is known as hyperfocus. And that is being able to intently concentrate on something that is of great interest to them, which is highly beneficial when you're creating something or developing something. So neurodivergence is kind of known for things like maybe being more easily distracted or struggling with focus in various different ways. And of course, it looks different to different people. However, with hyperfocus, it is almost the opposite. So when someone actually can delve deeply into an interest and they're perhaps creating something new or developing something new, they may have an expanded capacity to stay highly focused on just that thing for an extended period of time, often until it is finished, versus doing things in nice, neat little segments. Like I know lots of people are very fond of doing your little 20 minutes here and your 5 minutes there and, perfectly arranged schedules and 9 to 5s and that sort of thing. Neurodivergent people who are operating in a hyper-focus mode may work on something for a set of straight hours until it is completed and then need to not do anything at all for another period of time. And additionally, may have more of a challenge getting into the project, getting started on the project. But if they are deeply interested in it and they do get started, they often can go for a longer stretch of time, provided they're not interrupted. There may also be differences in things like risk-taking, which is often very important in running a business or entrepreneurship, being comfortable with a certain level of uncertainty. And for various different reasons, they may simply be more comfortable with taking certain types of risks that are necessary to run a business or to be an entrepreneur. There can also be differences in resilience. So while many of us may be more sensitive in some ways, there is also a resilience that can be markedly different from other people. And that is very critical in terms of handling the ups and downs of a business because you don't have steadiness. You don't necessarily have consistency, whether it's with your income or sales or things like that. And being capable of digesting those changes and having that resilience can be incredibly valuable in entrepreneurship. And going back to the hyperfocus, they may also have an increased ability to focus on the minutia and the many different logistical details that are very relevant in launching something, for example. That can be demonstrated or sometimes maybe called perfectionism, for example, but it is a hyper focus in producing something of great quality. And that can be beneficial provided that it's kept in check in terms of not being so perfectionistic that the job just never gets done. But they can kind of go back and polish things because they're looking through eyes that other people don't have. And that can be very important in things like quality control, ensuring that they are providing something of high quality and high standards. And that attention to detail can be very useful in entrepreneurship. They are often frequently driven by passion as well. So we already mentioned hyper-focus, and when you're deeply interested in something, being capable of being highly focused on that thing for a long period of time. When they are aligned with their passions and their interests, they can produce tremendous amounts of very high quality work, products, and services. And another feature that I think is often undervalued and overlooked is pattern recognition. The ability to see and notice trends, relationships between complex things, being capable of noticing and observing connections between like things that other people miss. For many neurodivergent people, this can be very pronounced. And so some ways that can be kind of put into play in a very practical, useful way would be noticing things like market trends, enhanced pattern recognition to spot marketing trends before they can even become mainstream. And that can kind of give neurodivergent people a little bit of an edge over their competitors who are just sort of seeing things in old traditional ways. They are looking at it from a very new and fresh perspective, and therefore kind of staying ahead of trends and market. They may also be highly attentive to customer behavior and feedback. Now, we know that sometimes that hypersensitivity to the feedback from other people can be harmful in terms of mindset, mental health, things like that, self-doubt, confidence. However, the capacity to observe and notice what customers are doing, what customers are saying, and how customers are feeling is incredibly valuable and can help to inform product development, marketing strategy. They may very well pick up on nuances that other people miss. And that's especially true if you marry in things like being an empath or being highly sensitive. A lot of times we think of these things from the perspective of how difficult life can feel when you're highly sensitive or when you're an empath. But they're actually skill sets that are highly useful, provided that the individual is taking the steps that they need to keep themselves emotionally safe, protect their well-being, set healthy boundaries. They can actually use those skills to their advantage. Things like problem solving are greatly enhanced by pattern recognition, where they can see connections between seemingly unrelated factors and therefore craft really cutting-edge, innovative solutions. They may also be able to connect things that might otherwise seem very different and come up with a new approach or a new way of doing things. If they can spot patterns in financial data, it can be very helpful in making decisions long-term for their business. Noticing patterns in competitors and in the market at large can also be extremely helpful, allowing for differentiation and the opportunity to create a different type of strategy. And some of their insights may seem to others who have a more traditional mindset to come across as really strange or weird or crazy, and yet they can be so innovative, so genius, perhaps before their time in some cases. But I think it's time to start looking at more things as where are the strengths and the benefits of being capable of having some of these perspectives that may be a little bit different from the mainstream. So I hope you found this to be interesting and insightful. You can always check out my work further at transformcreate.com. And until we connect the next time, I wish you a most magical and creative rest of your day. Thanks for listening. This is Christine Collins at transformcreate.com.